Grief, though contrary to what is commonly popularized, and my goodness, I've seen it already just in the last couple of weeks, grief does not work along any predictable set of stages or phases. In fact, most of us that do bereavement work full time or professionally now have long since jettisoned even that kind of language that implies this sort of linear process to grief, that I do one thing and then I do another thing and then I do another thing. Rather, grief is at its heart a bridge between the world that used to be and the world that is going to be. And I'm crossing over that bridge when I am in grief. And the whole process of grief is fundamentally about rediscovering who am I now in the light of this loss or these losses. So if I've lost my job, I have to figure out who am I now, now that I have lost my job. If I can't complete high school graduation kinds of things with my friends, I have to figure out, so who am I now? And loss changes us. It doesn't ruin us, but it does change us, and it turns us into new kinds of people. So grief is not, there really is no such thing, for example, as recovery from grief. I don't think we get over our losses. We enfold our losses into the rest of our lives so that we are transformed into different people. We become different by our losses, and therefore we don't get over them as much as we learn how to live in the light of them. Teenagers are just like the rest of us. They experience loss in terms of things that are dear to them, whether that's a person, a relationship, a role, a hoped for experience that now that dream is dashed. They are different from us in that one of the advantages one has to living a long time is that you've had a lot of time to practice this. And when you're only 15, you haven't had much time to practice. So one thing with teenagers is we have to talk with them about their imaginations. What do they think is the worst thing that's going to happen as a result of this? And ask them. What do they think about what did happen? Ask questions, invite them to share those experiences, and to know that what might seemingly be a little loss, especially for other members of the family, can be easily disenfranchised for a teen. So, I can imagine, Joe, that your daughter has already been told by some well-meaning adults in her life, not you, I'm certain, but by some well-meaning adults, how dare you be all upset about not having a prom or a high school graduation? Don't you know there are people dying around here? And that kind of stuff happens all the time with teenagers. Their love relationships are disrespected by parents or sometimes even their peers. Oh, it was just puppy love. And I think one of the most important things we do as mental health professionals with teenagers is we acknowledge that this loss is real, and therefore, as a professional, I have to honor that place with my patient, with my client, and to hear his or her heart about what they're struggling with. What Helen and I were trying to get at is that the term social distancing is very close to isolation. The problem is any of us need to be socially distant. We do need to be physically distant. Now, it was not because of our work that they chose to do so, but others have kind of joined this cavalcade, if you will, in the last week and a half. The reason we think that's so important is because social distancing does imply isolation. It does imply that I'm not going to be connected to you. And what we're only disconnecting from is our physical proximity. Hopefully we're not. We looked at the passage from 2 Chronicles chapter 20, where the great King Jehoshaphat was had learned that there were three enemy armies coming against the people of God all at once. They'd conspired against them. Jehoshaphat leads the people to pray and fast. And then at the end of his prayer, he says this incredible thing. I probably won't quite get right, but he said, Lord, we are standing here and we do not know what to do, but our eyes are on you.